Hello, welcome to Pecan Corner. I'm Tina, and today I'm repotting my baby tomato plants. I tried using eggshells to start some of them in, and the eggshells worked, but realistically they're not large enough. So I've got to move them. It's still too early to plant out. I was going to try to plant them out early, and so I set the poor little things out to let them harden off, and we had rain, and as you can see they got poor and pitiful and sick looking, and so I need to they just are not getting enough nourishment. Their roots can't grow big enough. Here's an example, let me show you. In the eggshells, see, there's just not enough, so they're trying to put out more roots. See, just even on that stem, can you see that right there? You see that, where that one is trying to put out a root even on its stem to try to get more nourishment. So I'm going to use some seed starting mix, and I've also got some organic potting soil. I'm going to start with this seed starting mix, and I'm going to move them into these nice 16-ounce cups, because it is March 11th. By the time I get this up, it'll probably be the end of March. But right now, it's just too early. We almost always have an Easter weekend freeze. And even though it's been, in the 70s, yesterday our high was only 54. So it's way too early to put these out. So they have to live for another couple of weeks, at least in pots. So that's my plan today. And they're just way too big to, and I postponed too long. I've been too busy and didn't have time to get out here and repot them when they were, when they were as tall as, well, I've got some in the house that I'll do too. So I'll be back in just a few minutes, and as I start working on them. Before I get too much further along, I did want to point out, I've been using knives, with these plastic knives with the name written on them, can't even see here. Make sure I'm showing you correctly. And they're all right, but they don't stand up very good in things. So actually, what I have found this year that works really good is plastic fork. These will just stick down in whatever those tines just stay in place really well. They just poke through anything. And so that works great for my little seedlings. And it would probably work fine in the garden, but in the garden I need things that are up on stakes where I can see them better. I have used seashells before. Oops, losing my camera here. Let me just do it this way. There we go. I have used scallop shells, any kind of a seashell. You could use oyster shells, you could use clam shells, and just poked a hole through it and put a wire on it, and they held up really well, and did not fade, of course, in the summer sun nearly as bad, written on them with a Sharpie, as a lot of things did. People ask me, I see something hanging on those sticks in your garden. What is that? And I was like, well, it's shells. But I don't live near the ocean anymore, so I don't have enough shells. What I do have is a lot of, because I can, is a whole lot of old used canning jar lids that you can't use them again except to seal dehydrated things, where you're just doing a vacuum seal on the jar and not a processing seal. So I have a ton of those. So I'm using those this year. I think I've shown you in the garden. I think you saw some with my peas the other day. So I'm going to see how well that'll hold up. But the other thing, and for my tomatoes, because I really need something with my tomatoes, because I'm growing a lot of varieties this year, and I need something that will hold up and have every single plant labeled. Somebody told me that surveyor's tape is the best thing that they have found. So I'm going to try using surveyor's tape when I put them out in the garden, not right now, but when I put them out, and put a stake on every plant and have it identified so that I can keep track of what they are. I've tried using maps before and I always lose my map, or I can't remember when I'm out in the garden what's where. So I think this will help me a lot this year. Also, when I get ready to plant them out, I'll do a little video then, because I'm going to try to, I've always put them all together and didn't give a whole lot of thought to which type I was planting where. From now on, I'm gonna separate the big tomatoes with a cherry tomato, or the pink tomatoes with a red tomato, so that I can keep track more easily that way. Or potato leaf. See, this is potato leaf tomato. Its leaves look like potatoes, whereas these are the regular divided leaf. They call them regular leaf. So a potato leaf plant is obviously going to be much easier for me to tell apart out in the garden, especially once they become this jungle that they will eventually become. So I'll also try to use that little trick as well to divide them out. So, okay, I've got my my seed starting mix in my cups, and what I'm going to do now is just start planting them out. Let me get this where you can see what's going on as I do it here. I'm going to write on each cup before I put anything in it, because I don't want to forget. I've got a lot of varieties here and I do not want to get them mixed up, which I will do if I just get going. So this is going to be Porter, and this is my 2015 seed, 2015-2016 seed. It was tested in October, November of 2015, and I bought it from them, immediately after that. Okay, so that's the one I'm gonna do first. Now, I'm going to bury this little dude right up to its neck, and that way the okay. See if I can get it where you can see. There we go. Okay. I'm going to bury him right up to his neck, and I'm going to crush this eggshell. I'm going to leave the eggshell in with it, but I'm going to pull it off here and just kind of crumple it down in there so that it won't interfere with the... Okay. Now, I'm going to bury it all the way up to there, and this will allow it to develop roots all along that stem. See how root bound it was in that eggshell? See all those roots in there? So I'm going to just bury it just like that, and then I will add. If you don't want to put your eggshells in the pot with it, that's fine. You can but do dump them back into your garden, because they're really good for tomatoes. Tomatoes need a lot of calcium to prevent blossom end rot. Our water has a lot of calcium, so I don't necessarily need that as much. I've kept my potting mix dry while I work with it, because it'll dust off the leaves easier, whereas if it's wet, it'll hang on to them and stuff. And then I'll water them in later. Okay, so I have buried them up to their first leaves there, and now they'll develop leaves, roots all along that stem. So there's the number one. I'm going to get going, and I'll be back and show you when I'm done. Here's one that lets you get a really good look at the way tomatoes will sprout out extra roots from their stem if they're not getting enough moisture or enough nutrients, or enough oxygen even. See how these are above the soil line, but those roots are shooting out of the plant? That's just hairs there. But see how those are? It's just a real good example of how they'll do that. And that's why you can bury them to create a better root structure that's going to make a much healthier plant. You can bury them when you plant them, no matter how old they are. When you plant them in the ground, you can bury them right up to that first leaves. This is not the real leaves. This is that cotyledon leaf. And then they'll make all these roots down there. But anyway, so if you see this happening on your tomatoes, it means you need to, give them more moisture, more aeration, more more of their nutrients, but mostly just nice little bit of fertilizer. And they might do this if last year when mine were covered with plastic in my garden, a lot of them did that, and it was because they needed more oxygen. They weren't quite getting the oxygen that they needed because it was being watered from below and covered in plastic. So that's what that is. I'm making progress here with my my plants, but I've still got a long ways to go. As you can tell, I'm about half done. I'm afraid I'm going to run out of potting soil and maybe out of cups, so I might have to put some of the later ones into smaller cups. I hate to. They say it'll stunt the growth if you repot them too many times, but this is, I think this will be okay. I think they'll be all right in these size cups. All right, be back in a little while when I'm done. I guess while I'm here, I could show you too. See how these two are growing in the same container? I accidentally got two seeds in there. I'm going to separate them. They're at this stage. I can actually separate them rather than have to destroy one or plant two in a cup. I'm just going to real gently just kind of tug a little bit here, and that'll just kind of separate those. See how those leaves, just those roots just pull apart. And so each one now is a separate plant and can go in its own little container. Okay, well, I've gotten a whole bunch planted today. But interesting, this is a variety I have never grown before called Mexico, and it's actually just super healthy looking. You saw how pitiful some of those other ones were, but this one is just super healthy. So I want to, I'm interested to see how well it does. All of these, I've got lots of different varieties. I'll do a list of the varieties in a different video, and I've got some folks that have been very generous with me, have given me some seeds. Earl at 45th Parallel Seeds has just really gifted me with some seeds. I bought some from him, and he sent a whole bunch of extras, so I really appreciated it. So I'm going to save some seed and send back to him for that. But anyway, these will, I've got them watered in now, and this, this mix is a peaty mix, so it's kind of hydrophobic, so it'll take it a little while before it'll moisten up, but they've got moisture down in there with them. My biggest challenge with these is going to be figuring out where I guess I can put them in the laundry room. I just don't have space inside for this many plants this early to keep them out of the cold. So I'm hoping, it's supposed to be up in the 80s this week, and so I'm hoping I'm going to try to leave them outside and not our cold weather ended today, and for the rest of the week it's supposed to move up into the 70s and then up even into the 80s, and so I'm going to try to leave them outside and just let them get acclimated out here instead of having to take them back in the house. I want to show you real quick my garden. I had it covered with black plastic last year to kill out the Bermuda grass, and while the henbit is taking it over right now, and as soon as it dries up enough where I won't bog down, I'll have to get in there and pick it out and leave room for the turnips and the radishes and things that are planted in there to grow. But while it's full of henbit from leftover seed, it's not full of Bermuda grass. There are only a few spots that Bermuda is still trying to come back. This spot out here that was really bad is, I don't know if you can you see my deer fence? Yeah, see, I've got this deer mesh up, and this keeps the deer out as long as I don't let anything grow up where they can get some sense of how tall it is. They feel it, and they can't see where it ends unless there's weeds growing by it. So I've got it up so that they won't eat my peas. I'm trying a new thing with my peas. I can't get in the garden to show you up close. Do you see those branches sticking up? They've kind of fallen over because of the rain and the wind. I saw this in a Baker Creek catalog. They just used branches as their pea fence. And I'm like, well, that's just brilliant. So I see I've got, let me see if I can zoom in. I've got one here that has already started twining. I can't see in this sunlight. I just can't see. There's one. Let's see if I can get up close to it. Where you can see, there it is. Do you see that? Or there's one that's already wrapping around and holding on to one of those branches. So that, if that works, and then I can just add taller branches if they grow too tall for these, that'll just be golden. You know, there's a disposable pea fence every year. I mean, how much better can you get? So anyway, that's where we are right now. We got peas, we got onions. Somewhere under that mess are turnips and some lettuces and some radishes. So that's where we are. Oh, these are some of my my lids. Looks like that's already starting to fade. So I guess I'd have to use a metallic pen instead of a Sharpie to write on those. Otherwise, it works great, you know, because it's certainly not going to melt or disintegrate. So, all right, that's where we are with the garden. You guys take care, and if you like us, please give us a thumbs up. Please subscribe. I'll give you another update on the tomatoes after we get a little bit farther along. All right, take care.